Hi everyone, Courtney Grunholz back with another video. I know it's been a while, but being the mom that I am and being busy, I just didn't get around to making a video until now. So, today, you can't see it, I'm sporting my Buffy t-shirt because I actually ordered some Fear Street t-shirts off a website called TeePublic. I should be getting them sometime next week. So I sport off shirts every once in a while. But the reason I have on a vampire shirt today is because vampires kind of tie into my second novel in my Heartsong saga. This is the sequel novel to Heartsong. It's called Reprise, a Heartsong novel, with a mate cover and an abstract idea. So you couldn't tell, it kind of looks like blood. So and you know, there are family ties, blood ties to your family. So again, abstract, out of the box, kind of not really what I wanted. So it has this cover. Eventually I want to try to go back and put a different cover on this book like I did the first one. So there are going to be a couple of spoilers in here if you have not read the first novel. So I will mark that there are spoilers for the book, but if you still want to hear about it, I'll talk about it. You can watch the video. You don't have to watch it until you get a chance to read this. Again, I always forget how much my paperback copies cost, but it's always $2.99 for a Kindle copy. So, and I can't guarantee that the Kindle copy is like very nice and clean. I've gotten a couple of books on Kindle that are older ones, and they look like they're kind of messed up, like they couldn't get it to be completely neat. But so $2.99 for a Kindle copy if you would like to read the first book before learning about the second one. But there are spoilers in this book. So the biggest spoiler, I guess, for the end of Heartsong, the novel, is the death of Howard and Nancy Richardson, my main romantic couple in novels. So their characters die at the end of the first book, and in the second one, since it's called Reprise, they get brought back from the dead thanks to magic. So what it is first Nancy is brought back, and she is discovered to be a witch, and she's supposed to be this all-powerful witch that's supposed to lead all sorts of good witches. So they bring her back. She is not very interested in going, to be this leader of, magic. She just wants her husband back. So she brings Howard back from the dead, and they're both put through trials of trying to be together. And a lot happens in this book. It's very actually linear. It doesn't have big giant gaps in between years like the first book did. So this is all like maybe a year later and then a year after that. So it's completely linear in its storytelling with maybe like flashbacks. But so it's mostly, Howard and Nancy trying to stay together. And of course they have their bandmates in Cataluna, Nora and Garth, and their drummer Phil, who is married to their manager Jennifer, who we meet in the first book. Jennifer's big into magic, so it brings conflict between her and Howard and Nancy and Nora and Garth. And then of course there are Howard and Nancy's children, their son Cameron and their daughter Angelia. So And then another spoiler of a character that's introduced in here from the first novel is Veleska. She is Howard's daughter with Belinda Michaels, the antagonist from my first book. So, of course, magic's involved with how she comes to be, and there are a lot of obstacles, people-wise, that are thrown at Howard and Nancy in this book. One's going to be a spoiler for like the third book in the saga, but in the second book there is a vampire character that is introduced in here. I won't spoil a little bit of his origins, but so supernatural, paranormal kind of elements make their debut in this book. I mean, we had magic in the first one, but we get more in depth into it here, and then of course vampires are introduced. So, but it's also mostly, besides, Howard and Nancy trying to be together, it delves into how it's affected their children's lives, how it's affected Nora and Garth's lives, and Phil's lives, and Jennifer's, and so Cataluna, they have their own trials that they have to face, and and their children are growing up, and they didn't have a normal childhood. I mean, they had parents who are not only, world famous rock stars, they tour all over the world, but, they've had magic in their lives ever since they were little. So they haven't had a normal life. So, again, it does have romance in it, but I'd consider it more like a general fiction kind of book. I guess maybe a little bit of horror elements because I throw vampires into the mix, but still, it's centered on these two characters, and it also centers on their family. I mean, the members of Cataluna are not just a band, like I said before, they're a family, and this family's been thrown into turmoil. At the beginning of the book, Nora and Garth learn that they're left in charge of raising, Howard and Nancy's daughter, because she's still under the age of 18. She's not going to be 21 anytime soon, so, she's left in their care, but, their friends are gone. Their friends that were like their brother, their sister, they're gone. And everybody has to deal with that, and there's fallout from it, and there's a lot of turmoil. I don't want to go too much into it because I've already kind of spoiled what happens a little bit in the first one by telling you how the second one begins. So, and whether it's my book or somebody else's, I don't really like to have spoilers. You should be able to read it for yourself. But it's not as thick as the first one. It has it's numbered, but it technically ends at 479 pages. So it's a little bit shorter than the last one. Also, when I did it in the matte formula, the pages are actually white. I think my other books, I had them like kind of cream pages. And of course, there's the matte finish. I just thought that was really different because when I did the first novel, before I had it reprinted with a different cover and with the page numbers and fixed it up a little bit, it was a shiny cover. So I figured I'd do the second one kind of like a matte finish, and it has like a little bit of scoring right here around the edges. So the font is really tiny on the side, but it's kind of different. So I had this printed. It was printed September 10th of 2018, so not that much later after the first one came out. So I kind of wanted to do it kind of as like a monthly thing instead of a yearly thing because I already have the stories written. So, because most of the time you have to wait for the next book to be written. But all of my like Heartsong stories, except for the few that I'm working on now, have already been written. They just need to kind of be re-edited and stuff like that. So, because when I did this one actually had page numbers, and I actually have a dedication in this book. It's dedicated to my husband Nathan. I forgot to put it in the first one, but it reads, "Dedicated to my husband Nathan. If not for him, I would never have found my own great love to write this manuscript or the one before it. I know this isn't his cup of tea to read, but what the heck. I love you, babe." Because that's just how we are. So, again, kind of like the first one, I still go over and try to find errors and everything. I'm thinking about putting in a table of contents in this book. So I do have my characters, since Cataluna's rock band, they're on tour and they end up in Brazil around the time of the carnival. Yes, I am well aware that in Brazil they speak Portuguese and not Spanish. And I have characters in Brazil speaking Spanish. That is because I do not know Portuguese. And when I wrote this, I did not have, a very highly advanced internet. At that time, I actually had kind of like a dial-up internet where I couldn't be on the internet if my mom needed to use the phone or expected a call. So I couldn't always be on the internet. And so it was a long time before I even knew about Google Translate. So yes, I am well aware that people in Brazil do not speak Spanish. They speak Portuguese, but I do not speak Portuguese. I do know Spanish because I took it in high school. So I do know all about that. So if anybody reads it and wants to be nitpicky about it, yes, I'm well aware. But now I could probably go back and translate it more into Portuguese than Spanish. But yes, I am very well aware that they do not speak Spanish in Brazil. They speak Portuguese. So that is pretty much kind of like one of the only things that stands out from the book. But I still think that even if you are a man, you could read this. I mean, there is romance in it. Again, I did write these around the time I first started my relationship with my husband. So I was in a romantic mood, especially in a long-distance relationship where I didn't get to see him very often, especially once he got done with college and started actually working a job. I really didn't get to see him as much. So, but I still think that anybody could read it. It does have romantic elements, but there's comedy, there's drama. I don't see why anybody couldn't pick it up and read it. So, again, I could eventually go more into depth in these books, but again, for people who haven't read them, I don't want to spoil it. But if you see the videos about these and would like me to go into more detail, again, being a author that's self-publishing, self-editing, no way of promotion, this is pretty much the only way that I can talk about my books. I do have a Facebook, a Twitter, I have a Goodreads page that, if you want to ask me questions or give me ideas as fellow authors or writers out there yourselves on what you would like to have me talk about, I can go I can do in-depth review about my books. Like, I could tell you every single thing that happens. So I could analyze it for you. I mean, come on, people, you got to help me out here. I mean, this is me doing it all on my own. So, but that's about Reprise, a Heartsong novel, the second novel in my Heartsong saga. Again, I'm still working on more stories. All the other ones that I said are like midquels that happen like in between the gaps in the first book and gaps between the second one and the third one, which I'll talk about in my next video. Still writing some of those. Almost all the other ones are done. So I'm just kind of waiting, biding my time about when I want to get onto Amazon Kindle, Amazon Direct Publishing, and publish them again. So again, comments, questions, feedback, anything, I'll take it. I'll even take a little bit of criticism. I'm not really good with it, but I can handle it with a grain of salt. So one of my next videos, I'll talk about the third book. Again, I ordered some Fear Street shirts because the Netflix Fear Street movies are going to be coming out next Friday on July 2nd, and they're going to be doing 3 movies. The following week is going to be part 2, and then the following week is going to be 3. So I got some Fear Street shirts for those, and when the movies come out, maybe I'll make a video talking about them. So my videos won't be like really high tech, like footage from the movies or anything. So, because it'll be streaming on Netflix. So, but I can give a reaction video or my take on it because I'm really big into Fear Street. And maybe if I get my shirts, maybe I'll do a little unboxing video and show them off for you. So, again, this is Courtney Knowles, author of the Heartsong Saga and a couple of other books. Just sharing my books with you. Again, comments, questions, feedback. Feel free to leave me comments, and down in the description, I have all the places where you can follow me. So, until next time, this very awkward author hopes that you have a very good day, and I will see you next time.